So much of her bio emphasis was on her record with criminal justice, right? Being that attorney general, being that border state AG, taking on transnational gangs. That was in every bio video.
That's right.
And things like that. Because, again, I think women in general, and I work with a bunch of women candidates, have a higher bar in a lot of people's estimations in terms of an executive role, right? Are they tough enough to take on some of those challenges? And I think the dynamic that you're seeing from the vice president is an emphasis on some of those kind of taking on those character questions when it comes to a lot of undecided men in this country in terms of the matchup between Donald Trump and the vice president. She's shoring up those folks on Howard Stern today. Last week with the podcast with the two former NBA players, right? Especially appealing to largely to young black men, right? A key component of her tent.
Well, and Call Her Daddy, potentially reaching out to young women, the Alex Cooper podcast she did over the weekend. Is there still something she needs to tap into, an interview or a place where she could get that audience she needs that she is not going? Because as Joe alluded to earlier, there might still be some criticism that she's going to friendlier outlets, people who are throwing her softball questions are more sympathetic to her cause.
Yeah, I mean, I think that argument goes out the window now with that 60 Minutes. That's one of the toughest interviews that we've seen going back generations of both sides of the nominees showing up for that interview. Obviously something Joe mentioned with Scott Pelley condemning Donald Trump's pull out of that. So I think that goes out the window. I think later in this week, as Joe alluded to, we're going to have that Univision town hall. Obviously, Hispanics are a key concern and focus, especially in key states like Arizona and Nevada, still for this campaign. But again, I think it's a matter of reaching as many people, and that key factor is at 5 and 10%, not deciding between Trump and Harris necessarily, but deciding whether to actually show up and vote. And she's got to go outside these bubbles. They're not watching us, sadly, most likely. They're not watching CNN. They're not watching MSNBC or Fox. These are folks that are outside of that mainstream where the conversation is happening.
Yeah. Well, not that Donald Trump is a stranger to speaking with friendly interviewers. He has typically gravitated toward right-leaning programs and right-leaning interviews. Is back on Hugh Hewitt yesterday talking about whether it would be possible to turn Gaza into another Monaco, for instance. Both campaigns have decided to largely eschew the sort of traditional hard-hitting journalist interview. Is that smart politics?
I think it's a reflection of where the changing dynamics are with regards to the media landscape. To your point, Donald Trump, the 27 of the last 30 media appearances have been before conservative
Listen to you with the numbers.
Audiences. He's doing Ben Shapiro for the first time
That's right.
Today as well, that the Trump campaign just previewed. I think it's a matter of going where eyeballs and ears are, and the shifting dynamics of the media landscape more than anything.
Well, as we consider the media landscape and what people are consuming, it isn't just news broadcasts and interviews. They are seeing things in between those actual produced segments. They're seeing ads. So at this point in the cycle, is it the interviews, the new information that may be gleaned from them that actually make a difference? Or is it just the flooding of the airwaves with the same messages we're seeing over and over and over? 4 weeks out, what actually matters here?
I think what actually matters, to your question, it's a really good one, is just content is everything, right? The matter for this campaign to get out, both campaigns, to feed that beast, which is content, right? The 30-second spots on TikTok, we're all on our phones watching Instagram videos, to flood the zone, which, a lot of these long-form interviews, to your point earlier, it was a 40-minute conversation with that podcaster in terms of call me, what is it?
Call Her Daddy.
Call her, yeah. See, I'm like this. I'm already like
probably more my demographic than yours.
But those clips were broken up, right, in terms of getting that element out there, and that's again, content is critical, and winning the content game, in addition to the paid advertising campaign, which the campaign is just dominating, the Harris campaign is just dominating. You look at $150 million more spent since the conventions ended through October 4th. I mean, that's just an onslaught of ads. The Trump campaign would say it's still relatively even despite the spending, so that's maybe a good indication for the Trump campaign. But again, flooding the zone is critically important.